at Amazon, we were doing something that no one else had attempted to do before. We knew we had to invent a new way to build and operate a company. Both Bill and I have been asked several times, how does Amazon do it and how does Amazon work? And so we set out to write a book to answer that question in a holistic manner.
We were excited about the idea of being able to pass on what we've learned and what Amazon developed to the next generation of business leaders.
Business leaders, authors, and former top-level Amazon executives, Colin Bryar and Bill Carr, have spent more than a decade as part of Amazon's leadership team, witnessing firsthand the company's period of unmatched innovation.
The important part was sort of where both Colin and I, in that sort of 2003 through 2005, 2006 range, there was an enormous amount of invention going on at the company, both invention in terms of new businesses being spun up that didn't exist before, digital media, AWS, Prime, fulfillment by Amazon, that ended up being pillars of the company. And furthermore, at the same time, Amazon was inventing something that has been hidden from view until now. That's what we're bringing into view with our book, which is the set of principles and processes that Jeff and the senior leadership team developed in that same time window to help enable the company to A, span such a wide variety of businesses, and B, scale effectively and grow globally.
Working alongside Jeff Bezos, they helped build out the processes and principles that shaped Amazon into what it is today, contributing to the creation of some of the company's most innovative products and services. They started with a relentless focus on the customer and worked backwards from there.
Working backwards, it's a very specific process at Amazon, and it's the process Amazon uses to take any idea and vet it and decide whether it's worth bringing to market. And this can be as small as what feature do we want to add into an iOS app, or do we want to go into a new line of business or a new type of category expansion. And at its heart, what the working backwards process is it's really starting from the customer experience and then working backwards from that. And how that's different from what a lot of organizations do is a lot of companies use what's called a skills forward approach. They ask questions such as, what are we good at? What are our core competencies? What are our competitors doing? The strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, the SWOT analysis type thing. What are the opportunities and threats? How can we nudge into an adjacent market and grab some market share? But often what's overlooked and not mentioned is the word customer. So Amazon inverted that on its head and really said from the very beginning of an idea, we want to define and start from that customer experience and work backwards from that. And really the primary tool is a press release and FAQ, frequently asked questions document. So the first thing you do if you have an idea at Amazon is you write a one-page press release, clearly defining the problem, clearly defining the solution, and why it's good for customers. If you read that press release and you're not excited to go out and buy that product or use it, you go back and do not pass go. You write it over and over again until you move to the next step. And then the frequently asked questions part is really, those are the tough questions that you need to ask and answer to say, how do we organize and move forward to bring this product to market, and make sure you know what you're getting into before the project is greenlit.
When we were spending a lot of time ideating and trying to decide what we should go build, my then manager and I, Steve Kessel, went and had meetings with Jeff to explain, what are our plans for the ebook business, the digital music business, and the digital video business. Amazon didn't really have a real business in any one of these three areas, but the writing was on the wall that we needed to transition to digital media. iPods were selling like hotcakes, and people were using Napster to share songs. So we started off by taking a very traditional business school approach of coming in with spreadsheets. And he proposed an alternative approach. He said, I know, why doesn't everyone in here go write up their idea for what we should go build in digital media? And one person had written up an idea for what we might build in ebooks. Jeff wrote about a device called an Amazon Puck that would sit on your countertop and you could say, Puck, order more groceries. Sound familiar? Now we were actually having much more meaningful discussions about different ideas, but the investment required to write up these ideas was not that great. Now, when we started to think about what would be an ideal customer experience for ebooks, we started to think bigger, and that led to a PR describing the Kindle. And there were many features in the Kindle that really we didn't know how to build. By taking this approach, we've iteratively worked backwards from there to figure out how would we solve the problems of a display that would be readable in sunlight or have the broadest selection of books at low prices. It's kind of the birth of how we came up with both the first digital media product, but also this process of the working backwards pure FAQ. It's kind of indicative of all these processes, which is that they were often an iterative approach where we tried different things to get to a process that we thought worked.
Sharing exclusive insights from their hit book, Working Backwards, Colin and Bill illuminate Amazon's 14 leadership principles that inform decision-making at all levels, and the 4 characteristics that define the company's culture.
You can think of what Amazon's leadership principles are. They're really, it's an actionable framework for how you can make decisions when you don't have all the information you need, you're moving fast, and the senior executives aren't in the room. That's really why the leadership principles were created. And then there's a saying at Amazon called "good intentions don't work, mechanisms do." So while you can read and understand these leadership principles, you also need reinforcing mechanisms or processes to make sure that these leadership principles are followed day in and day out. And so another unique thing that Amazon has done, and the reason why they can have 14 instead of just 5, 3 or 4 or 5 leadership principles, is Amazon has really stitched and woven each of these principles into the major building blocks or processes of the company.
They offer unprecedented access inside the room as Amazon's approach to leadership, culture, and best practices were developed, refined, and scaled, and share key analysis and practical steps for being Amazonian at any organization.
This machine is something that is fractal. It can work whether you are a company of 5 people or a company of 500,000 people. It can work for whether you're in a B2B business or B2C. It can work for digital media. It can work for any kind of business. And the reason we know this is because Amazon has all those kinds of businesses, and they applied this machine to help create companies starting from zero and to manage these incredibly large global businesses today.
Long-term thinking does not mean it takes you longer to get to your end goal. Long-term thinking and clarity of thought prevents you from zigging and zagging, which that is non-value add activity. So Amazon was the fastest company from 0 to $100 billion. And Amazon Web Services grew faster from 0 to 10 billion, faster than Amazon itself did. And that was with long-term thinking, clarity of thought. So, stopping to slow down in the beginning often will speed you up and get to where you want to end up quicker than you otherwise would.